Man, up to here is viewable.
Yeah, no, too close.
I know we're married, but
Just for the sound.
that's true. Okay.
Don't want to get too close.
All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our newest episode. Again, I'm Roddy.
I'm Lindy.
And today we have our special guest, Natalie, and we're just going to talk a little bit about your life here in Mexico, what brought her here, and just kind of see where it goes. But first, of course, like we like to do, we like to introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Natalie Saenz, and I come from Denver, Colorado. I actually am a Mexican American. I have family in Chihuahua and in Colorado. So when I first moved to Mexico, I was with family at first, and then now I have officially traveled to 13 out of the 32 states in the past year.
Nice. And now, where do you call home? Here in Puerto Vallarta?
I am in Puerto Vallarta for now, for at least a few more months. I actually wasn't planning on staying in Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, okay.
I was staying a month in Guadalajara, and the Airbnb canceled the day before I had to check in.
Oh.
So I just found a place here, and I loved it, and I loved the people.
Nice.
So I stayed.
Nice. I mean, I think we've been having issues with Airbnbs ourselves. So I don't know. Was they just canceled because
maintenance?
Maintenance.
Yeah.
Something happened supposedly. And they canceled the day before, so I stayed in Guadalajara on Chapultepec, which is a really nice street, but it's expensive. And because
we know that street.
The little bar street, right?
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, we stayed right around the corner.
Oh yeah, I love it. But since I had my dog, I can't stay just anywhere. So I do travel with my little Pitweiler. She's not that little, but with my Pitweiler. So not every place will let her in. So I think I ended up spending like $900 for the week.
Oh, wow.
Dollars for the week. So it was a lot. Yeah. So I came to Puerto Vallarta for somewhere cheaper until I could kind of figure out my next steps. And now I've been here close to 3 months.
Oh, wow. 3 months. Okay.
Yeah. So I think a few more months and then looking at Oaxaca.
Oh, nice. Oaxaca. Yeah. That's on our itinerary too.
Okay.
And what did you do back in the States?
So I was a director of business development for prosthetics company. So essentially I was at every single hospital. If anybody is watching me from any of the ortho clinics in Colorado, neurosurgeons or cardiovascular surgeons, hola. Your girl's doing good. And then now I just run my own marketing company, Viva Science Creatives, and I work primarily with corporations in the United States.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you said marketing?
Yes.
And in all aspects, like digital or just...
So really in all aspects. So digital, I also help create like trade shows. So sometimes I go to a trade show and they really want to make an impression.
Oh, okay.
They let me know and I will curate everything for that. I also do manage LinkedIn's, Facebook's, Instagrams. I work with lawyers, cybersecurity, construction, government contracting. So a little bit of everything.
Wow.
Nice.
It's AI based. So for those thinking that you're like, how do you know a lot about all of these things? I learn.
What AI learns, right?
I learned from there. Yeah, so everything I do is AI based, and then I just relay everything to my clients, and they check everything out, and it's very accurate, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing more and more about that every day, and just all the different aspects you can use AI in. So that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
And so, what initially? I mean, I know you said you've been kind of back and forth your whole life, but was there a time recently that you kind of made the final decision and said, you know what, Mexico is the place to go? What led to that decision?
So October of 2021, I just had a moment where I was driving home from work and my territory was very big. So I had been in the Colorado in the Rocky Mountains and I was driving home from, I believe I was in Eagle, Colorado, driving to Denver, which is normally about a 2.5 hour drive.
Okay.
And it took me about 6 hours. And there was a car and it was spinning out. It spun out in front of me, this truck, and it was a red truck, a big like Nissan red truck. And it was happening in slow motion, just spinning out in front of me. And I remember looking at my knuckles and they were white and you can't step. I was like, if I even break a little bit, I'm next.
Right.
So I had to just pray and just holding my knuckles and just watching them like, oh my God, I'm like, just please, please, please. And he did move out of the way and I went through and I pulled over and I called my boss and I said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh.
I was like, I can't be scared for my life going home. I was working very long hours.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem feasible. I remember coming home and my house was dirty.
Oh.
Like not like it was messy. It was dirty. Like I was like, I haven't done the floors in a month. I was like, and then I would have a little time off. And of course I just wanted to go out and do something. And I was kayaking or spending time with my dog. and I couldn't afford someone to come over to help
It's
clean.
very expensive for any
Yeah.
cleaning lady.
And here
Uh-huh.
it's different, right? Like
Yeah.
I've had quite a few, almost at every place I've been to, I usually find somebody and they come over in the mornings, they cook, they
Yeah.
clean. They're home by like 10 a.m. So they love it because I give them like, it's like your standard salary here is about 1,200 for a cleaner. A lot of people will use them the full 48 hours because here your
Is that for
work
the
day
week?
is 48,
Okay.
not 40. Although they're trying to change that to a 4-day work week.
Okay.
But I usually just hire them from Monday through Friday, and then they show up at like 7 and they're gone by 10, sometimes
How
12.
much you pay them like per week?
1,200 pesos.
Oh,
Yeah.
1,200
So
pesos.
it's and then for those of you in
Right.
the US, that's about $60-$70 depending on where the dollar is at.
Right.
And that's per week.
Right.
per week.
And of course I bought my own groceries and everything. But then they would come, I'm getting ready while they're cleaning.
Right.
They give me breakfast while I'm eating, they clean up. They would leave me food sometimes. And then I have the rest of my day. Like I'm going to work a few hours. I'm going to do this or whatever.
Everything's prepped and cleaned.
Yeah. And then if I make something for dinner, I would leave the dishes there. She cleans them in the morning. So nice. And so this lifestyle is very different. Now I have
then you have your
my
own
day
time to do other things, not dealing with all the housework.
Right.
Yeah, the price is pretty reasonable. Right?
Yeah, I think
we hired a cleaning lady for our house before.
Yeah, but not that good a price.
No.
Now, is that here in Puerto Vallarta or is out?
Somebody in Pitillal was where I was staying, which is a neighborhood in Puerto Vallarta, and that's how much she was charging me. But like I said, it is part time. It was she was only going like 3 or 4, a max 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
But in Chihuahua, that's what I was paying, and also she was like full time, but would show up from like 9 to 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So, but I do live alone, so it's not. There's not really a lot to do necessarily.
4 hours is good. You also don't want another woman in your house for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's a little bit too much.
Right. Especially if you don't have anything for them to do.
You kind of sit there.
You're just like, so what do you do? I would do that. I'd be like, you want to have coffee with me? Just sit down.
Relax.
And that was a part of that. So typically here, if you do want to get a good price, you just have to say, hey, I have this much to spend.
What can you do?
What can you work for me? This is what I need, and this is how much I have. Can you do it?
Right.
Yeah.
But if you go and you're like, how much do you charge me? You're always gonna get like higher prices.
Yeah, but for this area, like Zona Romantica here in Puerto Vallarta, the nanny or housekeeper should charge a little bit more.
Or probably try to.
Right.
At least try to.
And and I agree with that. There is, because I get upcharged. People see, even though I speak Spanish, and I'm like, oh, I'm from Chihuahua, and I have the Chihuahuense accent, and they still will upcharge me because they see me and they're like, you look like a little too Americanized. So they'll upcharge me. And a lot of times, like, I know what's happening. And I'm like, well, like, is an extra $1 really going to hurt me? Is an extra $5 going to kill me?
Right.
And I'm like, for them, it's a big deal. They're going home like, we scammed her. We did this. But it's like a huge deal for them. Sometimes that's what people make in a day.
True.
And so if you are moving, from the U.S. to Mexico, expect that people are going to like up your prices. It's not going to hurt you. It's still going to be way more discounted than it is in the U.S.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really helps, them personally.
Yeah, I think we noticed that here. Even we were talking about that today in the market. We went by. We like to cook at home, and we bought chicken and pork a couple of times, and the prices just seemed a little bit more. But the place we went to didn't have the price on the board, right? And then there's 2 butchers across the street that we saw had prices on the board. And sure enough, like we're like, wait a minute, like we bought some of the chamoto, and I think the guy charged us $150 a kilo.
Yeah.
Maybe about, and we went by, and on the board next door, it was like 100 pesos, right?
Yeah.
But again, 50 pesos.
Yeah.
That's 250.
Yeah.
So it's nothing like, oh my god, like he got me so good.
Yeah. Well, because to us it's different, right? Especially if you're earning in dollars. Are you guys still working?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, not working. We have our passive income from rentals back home.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be there soon. I'm actually looking to buy property here in Mexico.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, are you looking for like your own personal property or like rental, like income properties?
Right now, I'm just looking for land because so I'm 31, and I come from more extreme poverty from when I was young. So I'm on my own little timeline, and I'm at the point now where I'm comfortable, where I'm looking to buy land, and even if I don't do anything with it, down the line it's going to be worth more with the way that the world is moving, and Mexico's positioned to be the 13th superpower, like economical superpower in the world by 2024.
Okay.
And if you look online, there's places like Chiapas, San Luis Potosí, places like maybe cut that out, where they're starting. Oh, that's true. They're trying to get more tourism.
Mhm.
Oh,
So
right.
what's going to happen? What happened to Puerto Vallarta 20 years ago when it was just a little fishing village?
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, there was
Uh-huh.
nothing here, just a
Right.
fishing village. And now look at what it is.
Right.
So there's a lot of places when you're seeing people starting to do marketing and trying to attract people there. These are places that are going to grow, especially when they look like
That's
Bali.
smart. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like,
It's
like,
important
I know.
to
Right.
park your money there, like
Yeah.
waiting for the appreciation. You knew it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And there's people that I know now. They're like, oh, we bought
Uh-huh.
this property for like 20,000, and we just sold it for $6 million.
Yeah. Wow.
And because they made a $20,000 investment
20 years ago.
And
20, 30
plus
years
the
ago.
property tax here is super low.
Mhm.
Not like in the US,
So low.
you hold the land, all the taxes.
And I'm a citizen too, so
right.
like there's that. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
cheaper
and easier.
You don't
Right.
need to put
Easier.
anything to the trust here in the bank.
Mhm.
It's for you
it's
boom.
just set.
Right.
So
Stop.
yeah, that's kind of the next thing is I'm traveling, and everywhere I'm going, I'm looking and I'm like, oh, this place
Yeah.
is gonna be really touristy, and I'm talking to locals. And then because I have the advantage of speaking Spanish,
Mhm.
I get to talk to them. Do you know anybody who's selling
Yeah.
land?
Right. That's the
Oh
key.
yeah, actually so and so. So I have somebody I'm talking to in San Luis. I'm just waiting for him to divide his property.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's gonna sell me like the biggest majority of it.
Nice. Yeah.
So
I mean, that's what we've heard from other peoples. They always say if you can talk to the people, the locals and stuff, that you can always find out. The friends, cousins, niece is selling
Someone needs
a
to
house.
my mom used to always say, "Preguntando se llega a Roma." So by asking, you can get to Rome. Like if you don't know how to get there, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Take the steps and then ask somebody, and they'll point you, and ask somebody, and they'll point you. And even if sometimes you go back a little bit, like you're gonna keep going in the long run, and so
That's cool. I mean, yeah, I think real estate's always a good investment. For the most part, 99.9% of the time, it's going to go up. It's pretty safe. You can park your money, and you're going to do all right. That's and obviously that's how we feel. That's why we do what we do.
right.
We bought our house in Querétaro. And we did have to go through the process, but it's not as difficult inland as it is by the coast, right? So that was a little bit easier for us, but we enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking inland too, but by rivers. So San Luis Potosí, the Huasteca Potosina. Have you guys been there yet?
Is that the little garden? I know there's like a garden by a famous artist.
Call it a little garden.
Well, I'm sorry. The garden that the very famous sculptor artist put a bunch of sculptures.
That's close to that. Yeah, that's like near Xilitla. I actually was there also.
Okay.
Is that by the big park we went with?
No. It's a little bit up in the mountains.
Oh.
Yeah. No.
Oh, it's beautiful there though. I cried when I was getting towards that park. It's just so beautiful. I'm like in the middle of the rainforest, and I was like, I wish Miss Frizzle could see me now. And she's
Who's Miss Frizzle?
Oh. Well, this is how you can tell the different generations here. Miss Frizzle was a cartoon character that would take kids, like in her she's a biology teacher, and she takes kids on the Magic School Bus.
Magic School Bus, okay.
Yeah, okay. So this is some pictures from Huasteca Potosina. I can send them to you if you want to post them up so people could see. And if you swipe,
beautiful. Yeah.
that's the least pretty of the pictures.
Yeah.
Hey,
wow.
Yeah. Whoa, it's right.
Wow, that's very adventurous.
There's your little doggy.
Little doggy. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
We'll try to post those up on there.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful, beautiful. I think that they're advertising as Mexico's Bali is kind of what they're trying to go for.
That's San Luis Potosí.
That's La Huasteca Potosina in San Luis Potosí.
Right,
that's near that
state,
part.
right.
The state.
Right.
So that was about an hour and a half away from the park you were talking about.
Okay.
That's Edward Jones Park.
Okay.
Also very beautiful. And this is near a town called Ciudad Valles.
Okay.
So, and I'm looking like in that area because they're looking to get more people, and they already have a couple of things going, but it's not big yet.
Trying to get in like on the ground floor, trying to get in the good.
So
prices are still good.
Yeah. That, and then of course Chiapas, you hear a lot. I haven't been there yet, but I keep hearing a lot about it.
Same here.
So I'm like, Chiapas is on the list, and it's on the list for some land as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I hear again, Chiapas is very affordable, but also very beautiful. I mean, everything you see online is just like mountains and rivers and lakes. Just.
And you hear a lot more about it online now versus like before. It was just like, oh yeah, I know.
Again,
Chiapas.
Go back when we were talking about when we were younger. Chiapas way back when was where you always heard about the guerreros and all the warriors, the fighting down there. That's what I remember when I was a child. That's when I first to Chiapas. But even then, I was like, "Where's Chiapas?" Like,
Chiapas, it's somewhere in Mexico. Yeah, you don't even know where it is.
And so you've obviously been around Mexico.
Mhm.
So let's maybe start with the obvious question. I know you said you've been to 13 states.
Yes.
What have been maybe your favorite 2 states, and maybe anywhere in particular in those states that you like?
Oh, okay.
We are talking about San Luis Potosí. Let's say 2 others.
So I was gonna say, so San Luis Potosí is definitely the top on the list. You have to go there if you haven't been. It's gorgeous. The people are very friendly. I'll say this. I think I'm like, I want to talk about food, and then I'm like, I'm really picky. I've had some really good food in Guadalajara. I really like Guadalajara. Everybody keeps telling me it's really like conservative vibe town, but I went and I didn't think so. I had a great time. I was on Chapultepec, and then I do have some friends there, so maybe that's why I felt differently. Could be just like the area, but I really loved Guadalajara. Puerto Vallarta is actually one of my favorite places I've been to.
Nice.
Wow.
Not my typical Mexican experience. I actually kind of feel like I'm in the United States.
A little bit. I understand what you're saying.
Just like a tropical part of the U.S. Just because everybody speaks English. Like this interview is in English.
Yeah.
So there is that where I did kind of miss speaking English. I think that's why I wanted to stay. I miss some of the culture, just like the open-mindedness. I really appreciate that people, that you can walk out in shorts in this. I've worn this outfit in other places, and I have had people like just mean mugging and like just really upset about like my clothes of choice or choice of clothing, even though I don't feel like I dress too out there. Right. But in my hometown of No Casa Grandes, Chihuahua, if I go out with something like this, the ladies are having a heart attack.
Okay.
So they're like, "Oh, like she's wearing that and she's fat. You can't do that." And like wearing leggings. Oh, you can't wear leggings. Everything is just like very taboo. So you do find that in a lot of parts of Mexico.
Right, very traditional.
Very traditional. So I really appreciate Puerto Vallarta just being more open. I think it is because of so many tourists.
Sure, I think so.
A lot of Canadians here. A lot of Canadians, especially November through April. All Canadians.
There's a little Canadian restaurant.
More than American?
Yes, by a lot.
Wow.
By like a significant amount, a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, we saw a little Canadian comfort food restaurant, like right around the next block over, and it said closed for the season, which probably means they're coming in October, November. That's probably when they open.
That's when they come back.
Why it was closed. Oh, okay. Yeah, Puerto Vallarta, we've loved so far. I mean, it's our second time here, and we've enjoyed it. The first time was like a week. This time we're here a little bit longer.
Yeah. Oh, the people are really great here. I think the people are really friendly. It's really safe here, especially for women. I see women walking around alone at night.
Yeah.
So for somebody who wants to visit Mexico and has never been, Puerto Vallarta is a really good choice as like a first time. It's beautiful. If you go a little bit more south, there's turquoise beaches just like you would find in Quintana Roo, or like Cancun, or like Yucatan area. And everybody speaks English. Even the locals here, almost everybody speaks English. I'd say
quite
a good
few, right?
Even yesterday
60-70%.
Just a taco vendor. The owner like started speak some English, not all, but some.
But you understand, right?
Oh yeah, and then the boy looked like he worked for the government, and like 2 people, all three people spoke to us eating at a taco stand. One only spoke Spanish, the other 2 spoke English.
I met a boy at the bus stop and started talking English to me.
Yeah,
about the bus.
Like, okay.
So I think it's good for people who are either traveling or do maybe want to transition to living, who maybe their Spanish is not that good, right? So again, it helps make that transition a little bit easier.
Yeah, and there's a huge expat community here. If you guys, I don't know if you've already met like some of the expat community here and what you're into. I am really big on networking. So what I've been focusing on is kind of getting to know all of these expat communities. A lot of them are, they're like snowbirds, so they're back in the US or Canada. But there is still a huge, huge community here of expats.
Wow.
Maybe that's why I don't speak Spanish here. I hang out with the expats.
Yeah.
So what's the age range from those?
Everywhere. Actually,
you went.
I am one of the younger people on the end. Yeah. No, one of the younger in the group.
In the group. Okay.
Like groups.
Yeah.
Primarily, I'd say it's older people, mostly retired, or there's a few people that are remote workers. So like me that still work. I have a few friends that I've met here. But primarily, I'd say it's people who are retired, or just like people in like 40s to 70.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the general population throughout most of Mexico. I think people tend to be old, who come from the U.S. and Canada tend to be older. You find a couple of the mixed in youngers in their 30s, 40s, and and then maybe people who are younger might just be more like the backpackers, travelers.
Yeah,
on average.
Unless you go to a place like a Playa del Carmen, there are more digital nomads there, or Tulum.
Sure.
Yeah, but Playa del Carmen is known as Playa del Crimen too, which is the beach of the crime. So be careful right now going to Playa del Carmen. There's a lot of like pickpocketing, more things like that. So.
Right. So you mentioned, I guess, kind of Jalisco, right? You said Guadalajara.
Yeah, Jalisco in general, I love.
Puerto Vallarta as maybe your top spot. Maybe what would be a close second?
So I would say if you're gonna go somewhere else, I would recommend. Well, Zacatecas is beautiful, but Krill, Chihuahua. So Chihuahua in general, I have mixed. And my family is from there, so there's things that I love. So near my hometown, you have like Paquime, which is more ruins. Also, Mexico is full of ruins.
Oh yeah.
You just don't know about them. But if you see a sign, they're like, "Oh, ruins here," you could stop, and they're amazing. So there's like the Paquime ruins where you can see where the indigenous people used to live. Not that long ago, I have my aunt who's early 50s. Her grandpa used to live there.
Oh, okay.
And then they got pushed out into these caves, which is they're about an hour away, and it's called La Cueva de la Olla is where that is. So you go into like a little private property to get through, and you get to this like canyon. Basically, at the bottom of the canyon is where you start.
Oh.
You can do hikes, and there's a whole bunch of caves everywhere that you could just go in and explore, and you can see where people live. They had walls inside the caves, like separating rooms, and they're not super tall, maybe like here-ish.
Was that because the people were small?
Yeah, so I'd probably say like maybe like here, so the people are small.
Wow.
So it was that's
short,
really interesting. But Krill, you have Las Barrancas del Cobre, which so it's like a canyon that's very beautiful, and there's this beautiful restaurant that has like floor to ceiling windows that you can see down, and there's also like the glass floor, so you can see into the canyon.
Oh yeah.
And you can of course do all your typical like ATV racers. There is a lot of like love in that little town.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to go there, if you're just a woman, I have a sweet little lady, Doña Caro, that you can stay with, and if you were just really anyone else, she just doesn't accept men unless they're married men with like the family.
Oh, okay.
But if you're like a single man, there's also a little hotel right across the street from there, and La Casa del Nopal, and you can also stay there, and that's got acquainted with the owner of the hotel as well.
Okay.
So let us know, we get you a discount.
Because I mean that's cool, because I know most people who we've talked to, they don't mention Chihuahua, right? And I mean, a lot of our viewers may not even know where Chihuahua is. I mean, that's kind of what central northern Mexico, like northern central.
People know where El Paso is,
right?
Always. So if you cross the border from El Paso, that's Juarez, and Juarez is in Chihuahua. So it's that first state essentially. So you have like Sonora, Chihuahua, and then you have Tamaulipas. Is it? No, Monterrey.
Nuevo León.
Nuevo León.
Tamaulipas.
Nuevo León is the state.
Right.
So it's in between Sonora and Nuevo León.
Yeah. I lived in El Paso for a year, so
so you're familiar.
I know Chihuahua. So I know Chihuahua. I have a feeling a lot of people may not know.
If you do go to Chihuahua and go to Nuevo Casas Grandes, please stop by and visit Tacos Piporro. There's a lot of different little restaurants there. They are my brother's and my dad's tacos. They're very delicious. Carnitas Michoacanas are also very good there. So it's a good place to go for food and beauty. You need beauty procedures. Any kind of beauty procedures, honestly, dental, medical, that is a great spot to go. Very affordable, really good doctors that go in from Juarez and Chihuahua.
Okay.
And the prices are just astonishingly cheaper. I got my aunt a whole set of her teeth, her top teeth, and it was, I think, $800.
Okay.
When in the U.S. we're talking, that's like a $15,000
probably
thing. Yeah, it was something like that. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was crazy.
Yeah, we've had dental work here in her.
Yeah,
so we know
dental work. Ladies, you want some lip fillers? You need those like microdermabrasions, like all of those. Chihuahua was a really good spot for that. Very affordable and good quality.
For women to travel there alone, or
I've always traveled there alone. There are services that will help you travel. Like if you go into Juarez or go into El Paso, there's like taxis, essentially like a group of taxis. So if anybody's interested and you reach out to them or comment, we can send you these people's information, and they pick you up wherever you are, take you straight to Casas Grandes, to wherever you're going to be staying. And they do have like some Airbnbs and hotels there.
Okay.
Not the fanciest. So if you're someone that's looking for something bougie, that's
No.
not your spot.
But
If you like adventure,
that's your go-to.
Uh-huh.
Again, I know because again, just let people know. I would guess maybe summertime, maybe not the best time to go. I know it can get hot, like by Juarez and stuff like that in El Paso. I know it can.
So all of Mexico will be hot in the summertime. Chihuahua is a little bit more mountainous, so it doesn't get as hot. I would avoid when is windy season. Like the winter, actually, you get a lot of wind, and I think I have some videos of my hair just like wrapping around my face, just trying to take out the trash. And I was like, what is happening? And so I would try to look up when it's windy and like avoid that. Sorry, I don't have dates for you. I believe it's kind of in the winter.
Okay.
But it doesn't get as hot there. It is like deserty, but it doesn't get as hot. And the houses in Chihuahua are interesting because the inside of the homes are always cold.
Oh.
So like the materials that they use to make the houses in the summertime, sometimes you turn on the chimney. It's like you're dying of heat outside, but you go inside and it's cold.
Wow.
So I've been July and had to turn on the chimney because we were all cold. And we're like, well, why don't we just open the door, like outside? I'm like,
no.
Actually, yeah, no, my tia's like, get some blankets and like we're hanging out. So it is a very good place to visit. I'd recommend it, especially if you like good food. Like they have really good quality. So a lady here at my carniceria, because I was like, how's your cheese? If you go there, buy cheese, buy all the cheese. Or if you need some, let me know. Every time I go back to the United States, I take as much as I can and I sell it for $20 to $25 a bar.
What type of cheese?
Menonita, asadero, ranchero, you name it. Chihuahua is where you go for cheese. Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco,
Is it a goat cheese or cow?
No, it's cow cheese, but it's just better.
Delicious. Just delicious.
Better. It's really good. And I'm going in July. If I can bring you guys a piece, I'm gonna have to just break up a bar to share. But quesos are really good there, and meats. You have a lot of influence from Sonora. Sonora is really known for their meat.
Right.
So like I went to a carniceria here, and I was like, oh, I've been disappointed with the cheese. And then she's like, well, if you're from Chihuahua, she's like, of course you guys are cheese snobs. Like it's like if you were from Sonora and you're of course not gonna like the meat here. And I was like, oh well, my family is also from Sonora. I was like, so I am also a snob
when it comes to the meat too.
Yeah, but they have really good meats and cheeses. So if you go there, if anything, you just want to go and eat cheese and get beauty procedures and dental work done, like that's the place to go.
Yeah, thank you for introducing this place to most people. Probably they don't know, they never heard about it.
And also near Juarez, there's sand dunes. So if you're into that, and then there's a lot of people who do tours on like the racers. So if you're into that, you can also comment on there and we can get you hooked up with Daisy, who coordinates with Americans primarily and brings them out and gives them really cool full day adventures, provides lunch, does everything. You just show up. You just pay her and then show up. And she takes care of the rest.
Everything. That's always fun.
I know lots of women maybe watching our channel, they may think about travel alone in Mexico, check some spots. As you were a woman in the middle age, travel alone by yourself, you're going to certain states here. Is there anything during your trip you feel something, and you don't feel comfortable? You feel someone maybe attack you or anything? Like we heard some stories about a woman and the kids got kidnapping here. Is that something you want to share? Some of your feeling or some experience? I
hear a lot about it. I have really only one time that I feel have I really truly felt unsafe during my trip, and I was in Quintana Roo in Majahual, or Majahual in Quintana Roo. That is really close to Lake Bacalar, which is gorgeous, and Majahual is also very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was with a friend, and we had just done like a little 3-day weekend, and it was maybe like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, which I'm normally not out at those times. I'm usually inside by like 9:30. Just, safety, just in case. But that time it was a little bit later, but they had told us it's super safe here, and we felt safe. And we had walked just down to the end of the Malecon, and we're walking back. And there were a couple of guys I was actually recording a TikTok. And my friend, so I was like walking, and you can see like in the video those guys, which I haven't posted, but kind of walking behind us, and we ended up just stopping and letting them kind of pass us because they were hooded. Of course, they had masks. And we see Americans a little bit behind them, and immediately I just like, hey guys, like how are you? Like we're over here, and they were like okay. And we
Yeah,
let them
yeah.
pass us, and then we just
Uh-huh.
walked with the group, and we just let them know, hey, we feel unsafe. Like, can we just walk with you a bit? And then we
Right.
stayed behind the other people because they would look back quite a bit.
Right.
And once we got to like the Americans' destination, we essentially
Mhm.
just kind of hid for a minute and then walked around and went home, and we were fine. But you do have to be careful and just really listen to your gut.
Yeah.
If you feel like something's off, it probably is. Don't look for evidence, just trust it. And better to hurt somebody's feelings than, you know, your family getting a phone call that you're missing. But besides that, I felt pretty safe. I did have one run-in with the cartels in Durango.
Oh, okay.
But in Chihuahua, you do hear about people kind of like working with them, and they're, I mean, if you're not doing something you're not supposed to be doing, they don't care about you.
Yeah.
And they were very friendly. And actually, I had on my Instagram recorded one because I still get nervous. I mean,
Sure.
I got nervous coming here. It's just kind of who I am. Before I do anything, I'm kind of like, oh, I get just a little nervous. But I did have a video of that, and on my TikTok was showing where I just went through, and they were just like, hey, what's your name? Where are you going? And then they radio over information and like, hey, it's so and so going wherever, and she drives like a Toyota, blah blah blah.
So they just stopped on the road, on the highway, or a road.
Yeah, so there's a little stop, like a reten is what they call it. So usually it's police, and if you go on Google and look up that spot, you will see police there. But I have family that lives there, so I know it's not.
Right.
And usually it's not. You'll just see like local people,
Right.
and they're really friendly. Like they just get paid. It's just a job for them to just stop and just report who's coming in and out. Like they're not doing anything else.
Right.
And since I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be doing, I'm just like, oh, going to my aunt's house and coming back here. And I think in a week, no, I was there for 3 weeks, but I probably went through that like 12, 13 times or so.
It's just their job.
Yeah, it's just their job. They're just every time. I got to the point where they'd stop and I'd be like, hey, like, here's my info. And they're like, oh, you've been here before. And I'm like, yeah.
They're like a security gate.
Yeah.
So they just stop you. But that's the only time I've had something like that happen. And you can tell it's not official by looking at their shoes. If they are dressed in military, but they have tennis shoes on, that's not it. So some people were like, of course it's not cartel, like da-da-da. But I was like, if it's military or police, they always have the uniforms on. And then I did confirm with a military person here. And somebody had commented that, and I saw, you know, how they have the military just out and about patrolling. Stuck my head out the window, and I'm like, hey, if you guys do this, I'm like, do you guys, like, how are you dressed? And do you dress like this, and this? And got his, and he was just kind of like,
Who is this
no.
lady?
Yeah. And then I was like, will you do a dance for me? And he said no. And I was like, cool. I was like, sorry.
But, yeah,
See
I think a couple of good things you mentioned, you know, which is advice that anybody should listen to, was just staying out late, doing things you're not supposed to do, situational awareness.
Yes.
Right? You know, which again, that's always good advice. So I know we've talked about it in other podcasts and episodes. That's just sound advice for everybody. I think
For
those three things.
And not just in Mexico, everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because bad things can happen anywhere.
Yeah, and sometimes for women, you always feel very safe if you have a company. But actually, that's the most dangerous time. You feel comfortable. You have to
maybe let your guard down.
2 girlfriends. Yeah. When you are by yourself, you are more cautious.
Yeah, you're what? A trick that I use is I have, I had mentioned earlier, Pantera, who's a pit bull Rottweiler, and men see her and they will cross the street and let us walk, and then they will come back.
Get a big fierce dog.
They'll get a big dog that looks real scary. She can fight. It's better. If you treat her good, she's gonna treat you good.
Yeah,
I say she because my dog.
Have a big wild dog.
Yes. Yeah.
At least looking, right? Yeah.
Yeah. At least mean looking.
They give you a little sweetheart and lick you to death. As long as they look mean on the street, that's good.
Hey, if they can catch on vibes. If I bring her here and my dog is being weird with you and just kind of like not liking you, that's the last time you're gonna see me. And like,
true.
She has better instinct than me, and I trust her.
And
so.
I was reading another article the other day. So when a woman alone by herself, you go out at night or even in the evening in the quiet street, always leave the phone. Don't text anyone. Don't try to film anything, and just look straight. Don't check some like letters or anything.
Don't put your head down.
And you always just walk straight, confident. Yeah, be aware when you see some cars, the back trunk is open. Stay away. You never know. They
vans
put a bag on your head, push you there. You just never know.
another thing I'm trying to make this fun and friendly. Another thing to watch out for in Mexico is there's a scam sometimes in certain places, or something that I had heard about in that they told me about in Chihuahua that was happening in other places. I can't remember the exact places it said, but just in case, internet people get ideas, is that they'll throw an egg at your windshield, and then people instinctively, they're like, wipe it, and then it gets everywhere. So then you have to stop your car, and then they rob you when you stop. There's somebody else waiting for you to do that. So if anybody throws an egg at your windshield, you just keep going, don't wipe it, and then once you're far away from there, pull over. Things I've heard about that. Another thing that I use to stay safe is my family tracks me.
That's good.
I have the app Life 360.
Okay.
And so they get notified every time I arrive somewhere and every time I leave somewhere. So when I arrived here, my brothers,
everybody knew.
Everybody in my family gets a notification saying, "Hey, she arrived here, she left here." I personally turn those off because I don't care where you guys are at. I'm sorry. But those are really good too. If something happens, it shows where you were driving, where you were at.
Even places like Puerto Vallarta, we feel pretty safe here, especially in the central area by the Malacon. But the other night, I have to share our experience shortly. We were walking Louis down on the way back. Then there's a cop on their what's called patrol van. They just stopped. And they not just stopped. They blocked the road, and all of a sudden they just right passing us. Everyone with a gun and walk like a small jogging, like something going on by the Malacon. They're running there. For us, we just feel like let's walk the opposite.
Yeah, let's go now.
Stay away from. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe something, maybe nothing. Yeah, maybe I don't want to stay to find out. This is
at least 5-6 soldiers with guns,
it was
really fast.
It was the National Guard. It was the state police and local. It was all of them together.
There's been a lot of protests going on right now, and the military essentially surrounds them and tries to not really let people see what's going on. So it's I think it might be political protests.
And it could have been.
Because I've seen quite a few, but at nighttime I haven't seen that. So
pretty late, like 9:20.
Yeah, it's probably not that then.
Yeah. Then we're passing by our tamale guy at the corner. I said, Rod, can you go to just ask him what's going on? He's local here, selling tamale for 30 years. He knows.
Right.
And then Rod asked this gentleman, and he said, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it. They will just try to find those people selling drugs on the streets. That's why they walk fast.
They try to catch them by surprise.
Right. So don't worry.
One black off they just and they try to go and see what they can see.
Which is funny because a lot of times they know what's happening on the beaches, and they're the ones that are this. Yeah. But if the boss is "Hey, do this," they're gonna.
Right. Like I said, it was us too and Louis. We're having ice cream. As soon as you see a bunch of we're used to the soldiers, and that's fine. But when you see them, they weren't just walking.
They were on a mission.
I was like, let's not find out. See what's going on. Let's leave. Let's go.
Yeah. That's a safe thing to do. It's how I always say. I'm my job is to stay alive. People are look at that, sweet old lady or that guy or this. You can give them a ride. I'm I don't give anybody rides unless I know you personally. If I see you, on the street and you're walking and I'm like, oh hey, come on in. But if I don't know you, which is 99.9% of the time,
the people on the earth,
right? I'm I don't know you. I can't help you. Well, what if they have kids? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that might be just cover.
Somebody. Well, it happens, right? There was also on my drive. So last year I was going to start this trip throughout Mexico, and I was stopped because my brothers were told by the commander of Chihuahua that they were going to start a bigger narco operation or something. And then then he had told me, and I was okay, cool. And a week later they killed him before the operation started, which of course was because of that. So I didn't do it. And then something that he had been mentioning, and then after that I was don't have so many friends that are in these things. I know he was supposed to on the good side or whatever, but you don't know, you have them at your house and they want to get them there.
You never know. Right?
Yeah. So I'm just be really careful with who your friends are and who you're hanging out with. That's the biggest influence. But they had said that there's certain places down by San Cristobal de las Casas.
In
so
Chiapas,
south in Chiapas, where leaving there that sometimes you'll see kids on the street and they'll pull you over. And usually they'll ask you for money. They won't let you through unless you give them money. Or I've seen people that'll give them candy. Right. But then there's also supposedly cases where you'll see a little kid on the street sometimes a toddler, even 3, 4, like just a baby on the street, and you stop to get them, and then they rob you while you're getting the baby, or they'll steal your car.
Right.
And so I'm like,
just let me check very quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure everything's still on.
Okay.
It's on.
Okay, good.
The way the embedded experience
No,
to
it's
us
better.
before, just some like all of a sudden stop for no reason. Like what?
It happens. That happens sometimes with my phone too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is just kind of, if you are driving through Mexico, you don't stop for anyone that's not an official. If there is a within or something, even if they are wearing tennis shoes and you don't think that they're, official, just if you're not doing something you're not supposed to be, you're fine. And of course, accidents can happen anywhere. But
Sure.
just being cautious of, like, if you don't know them, don't help them. Which sounds like a little bit sad, but just in general, especially as a woman traveling alone, that if men are asking you for help, do not help them. Men usually will ask other men. So if they're asking you, be a little concerned. Just like those standard safety things.
And then another question, I know it's a little bit personal.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
If we could ask you, I know you're here, you're being single. So do you ever started any dating life or?
I've done some dating, so I am single. I have a very specific thing that I'm looking for in a husband, right? So I'm not casually dating. That's not really my style. I have a lot of projects going on.
Peace and
They're all married. If
They're
you're on a
all
dating
married.
They're
app,
all married.
they're mostly all married. And that is not a Mexico thing. That is just in general. The last time I tried dating apps in Colorado,
wow.
7 out of the 10 men that I talked to, if I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to these 10 guys, just kind of get to know them
Wow.
and see what they're about.
Wow.
And, you know, people my age, like, we're really tech savvy. We know how to reverse look up pictures and stuff. And you pull up their Facebook and their name's a little different or something, and there's the way.
There.
Oh wow! But
And-
even you ask them, you single, married, they just lie. and
Yeah,
say,
I would
single.
recommend saying, instead of asking, are you single? I would recommend phrasing the question,
Okay.
is there anybody that thinks they're in a relationship with you? Because men are very literal, and they'll say, well, like, I am single, but like, she's not, you know?
yeah.
So if in their mind they're single, because they're like, I'm not married, so I'm
Right.
single, or like this. So you have to really be careful of like how you
Yeah.
phrase things. Like, is there anybody that thinks they're in a relationship with you? I find that most men, not all, but like, will for the majority of the time be honest, but
Right.
you have to be very intentional with the way you ask things.
Good way to phrase
They
it.
will find loopholes for everything, and in Mexico, that's no exception.
Would there be any danger hidden there? Like you meet some people, they drug you, or those things.
I luckily have never been in that situation. I think that is in general like awareness
Like
for everything.
Public.
So yeah, I would say meet in public.
Yeah.
Here they are really big about like picking you up at home and taking you somewhere. That's again where we would go, tracking devices.
Yeah.
So like for me, right, I don't go out a ton. I do network and stuff, but
Sure.
like where I've been more asked out is like at home, right, where I'm going to be staying. So they know where I live. That felt a little more safe because it was like an American app, but also Airbnb is not, they're not really responsive with that. But I would say, like, of course, always tell a friend if you don't want your family knowing where you're at, who you're going with. Take a picture of like their license plate, send it to a friend, their picture. I've gone as far as saying, let me take a picture of your ID or send me a picture of your ID and then sending that to somebody. If I like in the past where I felt maybe like I'm on a date and then somewhere the date I start feeling uncomfortable, of course, having like a backup plan of like, hey, come pick me up, or just saying like, oh, so-and-so's like expecting me. And if I'm not there by this time, they're like,
don't worry.
Right. Or no, I would say more of like, my brother's going to come find me. Like they track me. And then for me, it's true. Like I'll be on there and I'm just like, oh, like my brother's here. Like I can, we have access to each other's locations 24/7.
Right.
So definitely having that and verbalizing it. So my first dates and stuff, or when I first meet men, and I'm like, oh, well, like maybe it's always something like, oh yeah, like my brothers are really protective and like they're always tracking me, like they're if I don't call them like every night by a certain time, like they freak out and they get upset with me.
Right.
Now they're like, okay, well, like if I have this, is gonna this. And if that time comes by and I'm still there and I'm having fun, I'm like, hey, let me go check in with my brother, even if I don't, right? Hey, let me go check in with my brother really quick.
Right.
And
Keep them honest,
right. And then I'm like, hey, because I said this, and like, if you're gonna lie, stick with your lie. But just to give them a little more like, oh, this isn't the one. A lot of times people, when they're looking for victims, they're looking for a specific person.
Sure.
Someone who they know is alone, someone that they think maybe doesn't have a lot of friends, someone who's not going to speak up. So don't be afraid, to speak up and to say things. And I always tell people like, I'm a chismosa. If you tell me something, I'm going to like talk about it. Like, I'm a chismosa. And then if I accidentally slip something, it's like, well, I warned you. But also, at that point, people kind of think about it. If they're going to do something negative to you and they're like, oh, well, she's active on socials or she's this, like, well, I don't want to.
Right.
And I think another thing for women is when you meet, even you're in the public, in the cafe or in the bar, never leave your drink when you go to the bathroom.
That's pretty worldwide, I think.
There is also nail polishes. I do not own some, but I want to get some for my nieces where you put on a polish on whatever nail and you can just go like this and it'll change color if there's something in it.
I never heard about that.
You have to be so careful because you think, don't leave your drink unattended. I've seen videos of women having their drink here.
Right.
No, it's good.
You're true. Right.
Yeah.
Quick. So you have to. It's not even that sometimes.
Where can
there
you
are
buy
like covers.
Buy those products.
Online on Amazon.
Oh, really?
And I think it's called like date rape nail polish or something like that. I don't know. That's what I would Google to find.
Sure. Yeah. And it'll probably pop up.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's something like that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm like stuff like that you can keep. Also for me at home, I have these like locks. They're red. It does not look like a lock. It's like a red thing with a chain on it. And I put the metal part that attached to the chain in my door frame where the door closes and like the little latch goes in.
Okay.
You put this metal thing in, and then you close the door, and then you put the red thing on, and it like locks it. So even if they have a key to your place, so for me, or I'm meeting a lot of people that I don't know, and I'm being asked out, so I know that there's men that have some kind of interest.
Yeah.
And you don't always know what kind of. I just know that there's interest, but I don't know intentions. And I put that on my door, and even if they have a key to the place, they cannot open the door. So things like that. Or if you have like some kind, like there's also like sticks you can put on your door to have stuff like that. Carry if you can, whether it's like bear spray, pepper spray is like illegal in a lot of places, or not illegal, but like if you use it, it's illegal. You can carry it but not use it because it's considered a weapon. But if you have like wasp spray or bear spray, like that's not a weapon.
Yeah.
So think about like that kind of stuff. Of course, always just be aware. And if you're feeling unsafe, that's what's really important to have friends. I sometimes even will said like a friend that lives in the US and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be going out with so and so and so and so, or I'll check into the restaurant. Hey, I'm here like on a date. Here's what he looks like. Da-da-da. If something, and at that point, it's more of like if something happens, here's who did it, or here's like your first lead.
Right.
And sadly, this is kind of like risks we have to take of going out as single women.
Yeah,
that's good. Well, I mean, I know it's good. I know a lot of. It's always good to talk about that because I know there's those interests. People come to Mexico, they talk about dating, but I guess maybe kind of switching gears and kind of winding down. I know when you had sent me a little bit about yourself, you had mentioned some things that you were trying to get involved with. I know that you said with like one was like an orphanage, another one was some kind of like dining group or something like that. I don't know if you want, because I know when people they would come to Mexico, they want to have things to do and interest. And so what are these interests?
So right now I'm volunteering at an orphanage in Pitillal, Jalisco, which is about 30 minutes from where we're at right now. And I didn't know when I started that it's actually a private orphanage. I would have liked to have worked more with a public one.
Okay.
So I've learned that in Mexico, if you want to avoid some taxes, you can have like orphanages. And it's like
a foundation, right?
Yeah, it's like a foundation, right? But I get to go with the kids, and it's not like I'm doing a lot of educational things. Honestly, I just go to have fun. I just grab them and like helicopter them around and flip them and just tire myself out. Essentially, it's like go to workout. I go every Friday, and I have done a couple of things where like my followers have sent me and like people I know from back home money to buy them shoes. To buy them like different little things and just activities for us to do together. So if anybody would like to support us with that, that'd be great. And then the other things that I'm doing, and this isn't my projects, but I did meet two women here, Ana Sechat, and she does like high dinners. So she infuses food with like CBD and marijuana, and you get, and this is all Americans that, of course, that get together. For the most part, it's all Americans. And like last month, she had done a pool party, so she rented a really nice Airbnb with a rooftop pool, and they get together. And then that was like a buffet of just different infused foods. And then this next month, on the 25th, she's doing an event on a yacht. I think she switched it from a yacht to like a smaller boat, but like a boat, and it's like lunch and a brunch or something.
Sure.
And I don't normally talk about that stuff on social media, but I don't work professionally for anybody anymore, so I'm sorry, people.
And when you told me infused food, I was thinking like maybe like infused with like spices, this, that. I don't know, is that type of infused?
No, it's infused. Yeah, it's that kind of infused. And then there's another lady, and I don't know how I got involved in these communities. Like things just happened. But they're like really sweet and everybody's really friendly and supportive. So if you're trying to like get connections networking, it's a really good areas to do that. And then there's like in the African And then suddenly in the 90s, it was like, got milk, and there was all about milk advertising.
Yeah. I remember that.
Okay, so, and then suddenly it was like, oh, milk is good for you. All these, so what happens is the people that sold milk were like, we're not having a lot of sales. You come together with all your competitors and you do a marketing thing, and then that's like your campaign. And now milk is important, and everybody drinks milk every day. And now we're always like, you know. Same thing, you know, they hired a whole bunch of people. They didn't for like a year and a half. I had so many friends and people saying like, oh yeah, I got hired. I like don't really do anything. I have to keep asking for work and all these tech companies. And then suddenly they like all got laid off at the same time.
Wow.
And so now what do you have? You have a whole bunch of people with one skill that need jobs, and now there's less jobs than people versus before there was more people than jobs, or you know, more jobs than people.
Right.
So is that easy for freelance people to find the jobs?
Or find work?
Yeah, find those work, like enough income to support their life. How do I ask? Should they prepare those income already stable for a couple of months, even they live in the US first, then move? Not just come to Mexico first. Then the job is coming to me. I can expect to make another 3K, 5K a month. But if it doesn't work, then I have to go
don't
home.
do that. But don't do what I did. I quit my job, and I was just kind of, but I went with family, and essentially, like my brother, was in charge of that, making sure I ate, and like I said, they have lots of restaurants there, so I was just like different day, different place. Definitely, if you can get your things together in the US, especially if you are going to freelance or kind of create a company of your own, which creating an LLC is very inexpensive and easy. So if you can do that, I would keep everything separate. But if not, you can work your Social Security and have clients and just have them, you know, pay you to your regular bank account. We'll make your accountants a little bit upset with you, but not too bad. And try to have clients ahead of time, or start freelancing, whether you're using Fiverr or Upwork. Just even like Facebook, you can. LinkedIn is huge. If you're not on LinkedIn and you're trying to get jobs, you need to be on there, because recruiters will find you and find ways to make your profile like enticing for them to look at, right? But that's a whole different TED Talk. And but definitely try to have something ahead of time. Cost of living here is relatively cheap. It's like a lot cheaper, especially if you speak Spanish, or if you're like a Mexican American and you're coming here and you know your Spanish is pretty good. You're going to be able to talk to locals, and you're going to get way better deals. I pay like a third of one of my. She thought she was getting a really good deal. I won't go into the numbers, but and I have I'm staying at a ranch now, a 7-acre ranch. Which when I have an event, I'll go ahead and invite you guys.
Nice.
I did on my list. There's a huge place. I could have like a whole dance party there. Essentially,
7 acres
is a kiosk. There's like a pizza oven, like a clay pizza oven. I got grills. I have really nice like tables, like those wood tables. The house is a 4-bedroom house, 1 bathroom, but 4 bedrooms. It's massive.
We got 7 acres.
And then there's, I'm sorry?
You got 7 acres for the restroom.
Right? Oh, and then I have outside at the bottom where like the little kiosk is, which is just like a tin thing. There's like a male and a female bathroom too. And there's a playground if you got kids. So I'm like, I don't have kids, but there's like swing, seesaw, those tire things that kids jump on and play around in. Like, and then there's a soccer field, a volleyball net, like helpers quarters if I were to have help, I guess.
If you need that much help.
Like, so there's that. And then they do all of the maintenance. I don't do anything. There's a horse on the property and a parrot, a macaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, and a pretty big cage. And like I pay a third of what my friend pays.
Oh, nice.
But why is that? Because I speak Spanish and I'm able to, you know, just kind of tell people like, hey, here's my situation. Here's what I have. Do you know of a place that can accommodate this?
Right. What's the average cost of living for a single person? Like, if you know.
Well, it really depends on how much you're going to be paying rent, where you're at. Like, Zona Romantica, you're going to expect to pay more. But I have seen apartments in this area for like starting at like 13,000. Not as often. But if you're going, I get in my car and I'm like, hey, do you know anybody renting around here? And they'll be like, oh, check with whoever. And then I'll go, hey, they said that maybe you knew, do you know anybody? And that's how I
Just
find
keep
places.
going.
Yeah, I just ask,
Yeah,
and I
rent
get
here, especially in this area,
Yeah.
it's very high.
Oh, yeah.
But I've seen it go up to, and I don't know how much you guys pay, but the lowest I've seen is 13, and it was a 3-bedroom apartment, 1 bathroom, no kids or pets though. So it didn't work for me because I was like, I'll take it, and they're like, no dogs. I'm like, oh. And then I've seen it go up to like 40, 50,000.
Right.
So
40,
it's
50,000.
a month.
Right, but that's still a lot. Yeah. Oh, yeah, pesos. So.
Yeah, pesos. So it's
That's
about up to like $2,500.
Yeah.
So just depending, on who you're going through. If you're going through a real estate company, they're going to charge you more because they're also covering like their salaries plus the profit that people want to make.
True. Maybe go to like Facebook Marketplace.
Yes, you can
find some more local price deals.
But they're still going to hijack those. In Puerto Vallarta, if you want to move here, it's ideal to move here in like May, June, and then get a year lease. If you try to move here in October, November, you will not find a place. Everything will be 3 to 5 times as expensive because you have all of your expats that are coming here from Canada.
Yeah, they never give anyone deposit.
Oh, yeah,
you'll find anything online.
Yeah, we've heard a few stories about that. People give deposits ahead of time. Or whatever,
you have to meet people and don't give a deposit until you're signing the contract.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They may just disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
we've heard lots of stories like that.
Yeah, you have to but that's common knowledge. Like if you wouldn't do it in the U.S., don't do it here.
You like to believe so, right? But it happens.
And I mean, it is different.
So average cost of living, maybe a person, 2,000.
I'd say that I spend about 2,000 ish. I am more of a big spender, I'd say.
Sure.
So I'm someone that I'm like, oh, I want to go get like wax, and I'm trying to do my nails, and I'm trying to do this, and I want to do this, and I like to go eat out a lot.
Bad still.
But it's really inexpensive.
The drinks here are pretty reasonable. You always see those happy hour 2-for-1 everywhere.
Yeah. So I'd say like $2,000 a month. You're gonna live comfortably. Especially if you can get rent for less. Like the numbers I was giving you, I'm paying less than that. Like I said, that's more if you have the connections. Eating out is super inexpensive. Grocery shopping is so inexpensive. The first week, if you move here, you're going to be sick. Maybe even up to 2 weeks. It's not Montezuma's revenge. It's your body detoxing.
Yes.
All of like the chemicals that are in your food in the U.S. And I had my friend that had just come here that I was telling you. He thought I was kidding when I said that. I said, you're going to lose weight and bring a Speedo. And he didn't think he thought I was lying with both. And he gets here and he was really sick for like, I don't know, 8-9 days. Wow. And he was just like throwing up and just, GI problems everywhere. But then after that, he's already lost 10 pounds and he's only been here 3 weeks. Wow. And we didn't even weigh him until he was 5 days in. So who knows? It could be more.
A couple pounds in there.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. We even talked about that with the gentleman yesterday at the taco stand, just how the food here in Mexico is just, for the most part, just cleaner. Right? Just, everything back home in the States is just, all steroid injected and chemical injected to make it bigger and this.
And the fruit here.
Yeah.
I didn't really eat fruit in Colorado. And I was like, oh, I just don't really like it. I don't like it. It turns out it's just not good over there. I was always like, oh, I don't like apples. I'm like, or pears. I was like, oh, like who eats pears? Pears are so good here.
Yeah.
So my goodness, so sweet. Just the fruit here is unbelievable.
And the mango, they put a chamoy on the top.
I have a mango trees by my house, so I just get free mangoes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And like, there's just tons of them, like hundreds.
We passed by some mango tree, but nothing really.
Oh, she saw them,
falling. Like, okay, I'm not
mango tree. Like, it's a little not ready yet.
Throw in some rocks.
But the birds are eating it.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I'll stand there for a few minutes, and usually one will drop while I'm there, and I'm like, "You're perfect."
Yeah, I've been waiting for you.
So I have 4 mangoes right now that I'm going to turn into like popsicles, frozen popsicles.
Oh, nice.
So the food here, you're going to feel so much better. I eat a lot less too now that I'm
Notice
here.
that.
Yeah, it's just hot.
And it could be the heat. And I think the food, I just feel like nourished. Like I feel like sometimes before it was maybe like I would anxiety eat maybe. So it could be like different things.
Yeah, but we've kind of noticed that too. We've talked about that. We used to eat a lot back in the States. We've been here and we eat less and we just feel fuller.
Yeah.
I mean,
you feel like satisfied.
Yeah. So maybe it's something more than we thought. It was maybe just getting older, whatever. But
no,
that's hearing from someone else, like that's exactly how we felt. We used to eat big eaters, and then we come here like
eat less.
Eat a couple of pieces.
Even we go to
this
a
and-
buffet, we also eat a little
Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
plates.
Oh yeah, we'd go crazy in the U.S. Here.
Yeah.
We still eat a lot of sweet stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then here, I don't ever feel guilty. Before, I feel like I was always kind of like trying to diet. I've lost 36 pounds since I've moved here.
Wow.
And I'm not really dieting. I mean, I do like to go to the gym and things
Yeah.
like that, but like I still eat out maybe like 3 or 4 times a week now
Oh,
that
yeah.
I'm not eating out as much.
Yeah.
And, right? So I'm like, I eat out like a lot. And then but when I cook at home, it's usually like I'm eating a lot more simple too. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like I'll just have a burrito, but it'll be like beans and avocado and
Oh,
veggies.
it's very good, right?
And, yeah, and like little cheese. Well, I don't eat that much cheese here, but you know, something simple like that, and I'm like satisfied, and don't think about food really.
Yeah.
And then I never really ate bread in the U.S.
Mm.
And like today for breakfast, I had leftover like caldo, like a veggie stew that I had yesterday that I just had to be eaten. And then after that, I had like bread with what's it called, lechera, which is like that condensed milk.
Oh, right.
A little bit. And I feel like in the U.S. I would have been like, oh, like I can't have that. That's so bad. And here you don't even feel guilty about what you eat. Like you're like John will be like, oh, well, I don't know if I should have that. I'm like, well, if you want it and like you feel like just have it. And he's like, I feel like we're eating like so bad, but like I'm losing weight. And I'm like, that's because you're not eating that bad. Your body's getting nutrition.
And worst case, you'll sweat it out too.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
another thing is the stress level. Once the stress level getting lower, your body also work better.
Yes.
Also another reason you lose some weight.
Yeah.
People-
Yeah.
It's simply like you feel more satisfied. Just eat.
Yeah. Less stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for your
Eating habits
Yeah.
and everything.
immune system.
Oh yeah.
Everything.
All the
Oh, and then if you go into the ocean too, like that's detoxing you. All that
Yeah,
salt
it
water
is.
is just getting stuff out of your
Mhm.
body.
More oxygen, raise up your metabolism,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel better a lot more like just physically since moving to Mexico, and not like
yeah.
in a certain place specifically,
Mhm.
but just in general, I feel like I have more energy. In the U.S., sometimes I didn't want to get up, and I had to, right, because I worked really long
Yeah.
hours. But it was always kind of like, oh, I have to get up. Oh, I have to do this. And here, it's not that way. It's just kind of like, oh, it's a new day. Like,
Let's
what's
go.
next?
What's gonna happen today?
Yeah, what am I doing today? And every day's different. And even if it's not, it's like we only cut the same for 1 or 2 days. And
I think most people are just more slow pace, more relaxed mode. Even they might be just poor level or middle
Mhm.
class, whatever. Not much money, but
Everything's
most
just
people enjoy life more.
yeah, people work to live here.
Yeah.
And in the US, you live to work. You're just like a cog in the machine. You're just another employee.
right.
Yeah.
I had like an existential crisis a little bit when I moved here because my whole life I worked so hard to just be like a really good employee, and I just got to go and I just got to climb the ladder, and I did. But then I get to these positions and I was like, okay, well, like now I'm a director.
Now what?
And like, I was like, okay, well, like VP was the next thing. And then I was just like, I'm tired. I'm scared for my life today.
Yeah.
All these things. I'm like, it's like, I'm like, as a single woman, why am I driving home at 9:30 at night from a work thing? I'm still like 2 hours away, and that was like happening. And
Right.
Gosh. Yeah.
and you just think where I'm like, when people are like, well, don't you feel like unsafe? And I'm like, well, I used to feel unsafe then when I was having to drive on icy
Sure.
roads or having to do, which of course isn't the case for everybody, but just in general, I feel like the safety level, I feel safer here, even though like in the US, there's so much propaganda right now, especially with about like, oh, Mexico's so dangerous. I do have a theory about that. I think it's the lithium. They just found the lithium and they nationalized it instead of privatized it. So I do think you guys in the US are going to be hearing a lot more about how dangerous it is, and kind of blowing things a little more, like exaggerating things a lot more over there. Just like here, we hear like my family members here, when they hear I'm going to the US, they're scared. They pray for me. Yeah, they're I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna light a candle. Don't go to the store. Don't go to the malls. You're gonna get shot. They're gonna kill you if you go. Don't go anywhere. Like, don't leave the house.
Don't do anything.
Yeah. So then I go to the US and they're like in Mexico. They're freaked out that you're gonna be in Mexico. Like, this is gonna happen. And then when I go to the US, they're like, and in reality, the majority of people are good, or we all have good and bad, but you just have to be aware and be smart, and like accidents can happen anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I think maybe kind of like ending the little interview here. Kind of, we always like to ask, were there any other questions maybe we could have asked, or any last piece of advice you'd like to give anybody out there, people who want to move to Mexico? Just any good advice.
thing I mentioned earlier, Mexico is in line to be the 13th economic superpower of the world. It is no longer the American dream. It is now el sueño mexicano, so now the Mexican dream. So if you are, in your 20s, 30s, or whatever age, and you want to make something of yourself, Mexico is the place. Be respectful of the people, of the cultures, learn the language. Mexicans are super friendly and they will try to speak English to you, but you still have to put your part. I know people have lived here 20 years and don't speak a lick of Spanish.
Wow.
So learn the language. Don't be upset if they're upcharging you a little bit. You are in a way better financial position than they are, no matter where you feel you are in your financial position. So if you can't afford what they're saying, either go somewhere else or don't get it. But definitely come here, especially if you're like first generation Mexican American. Come back home. Come back home and live the life that your parents thought you were going to live over there. Make that money, get your bag, and come back.
Perfect. Well,
Awesome.
now again, so we want to thank you for your time. I mean, it's been great. So much good advice, so much very interesting stories. And we appreciate you coming out here and sharing it with us.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, so again, thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions or comments,
we will leave her TikTok, Instagram,
yes, please,
websites we mentioned also in the description, so you can get connected.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye. Perfect.
Oh, didn't stop. Good. Oh, maybe.